This video is part of the MSAD 46 Educator Effectiveness Series. This time it's observations and evaluations, and in particular we're going to do a quick look at some definitions as they relate to observations and evaluations in particular. As we get started, it's important to remember what we're doing with our Educator Effectiveness Series and that what effectiveness is. And effectiveness is that bridge, that connectivity, that connection between what the teacher does and what the student knows and can do. So let's talk about effectiveness and let's talk about our definitions. First and foremost, when we're talking observations and we're talking evaluations, it's important to know the difference between probationary and professional staff. A teacher is labeled probationary for the first 3 years in district, post their hire date, and after that, once a teacher's been here for more than 3 years, they are labeled professional. There's an entirely other video on how the timelines are laid out for teachers in our district about what probationary and professional means and what happens in each year of their observations. And I would highly recommend you go and watch that video, part of this series called Observation and Evaluation Timelines. But this video right here is mostly going to talk about the 3 different types of observations that we have in our district, because there are 3 different ones. There's a formal, or also known as comprehensive, there's an informal, and there's a walkthrough. All 3 have different functions, have different purposes, but all 3 are very important for how they can develop and create an overall effectiveness rating at the end through an aggregation of data and through a conversation between teacher, educator, and evaluator or administrator. So the first type is the formal or the comprehensive. This, every year of a probationary teacher's year, a formal and comprehensive evaluation observations are completed, and for professional staff in the 3rd year of their overall cycle, a formal or comprehensive observation will be done. The definition of it for our district is that it's based on a minimum of 3 target elements in the deliberate practice criteria of the annual growth plan. Now, that's a whole lot of verbiage, but what it basically means is every year when you do your self-assessment, you choose 3 or more targets that you're going to be working on, that are going to be your focus for the course of the year. And the formal or comprehensive observations look at those in particular really deeply. They require multiple or formal observations. They need to be scheduled and planned in advance. You work with your evaluator, your administrator, to make sure you know when they're going to happen. You have a pre-conference before they happen so that you can say, this is what I'm going to be doing in this particular lesson, classroom, class day, etc. This is what I'm going to be doing. I want you to look for these particular things, these particular elements, or this element, whatever. And after the observation happens, you'd come back and have a pre-conference on that formal observation. And usually the formal observations, they last pretty much the class period. They last a while. These are the scores that result in the summative effectiveness rating for the deliberate practice criteria. There are 5 criteria for our system. There's overall professional practice, student growth, student surveys, effective technology integration, and deliberate practice. This is where these are our particular targets, and we are deliberately focusing on these 3 targets. So for probationary teachers, every year for the first 3 years, you'll have 3 of these longer, more in-depth, more focused observations, formal observations. And for professional staff, you'll have 3 in your 3rd year. Okay? Now, the second area is the informal observation. These are not as scheduled, not as intense, not as long, or there are not as many requirements for them. These are where peer mentors, where peer observations, where evaluators, where anyone coming into the room who's there for 15 minutes or longer or so can look around and based on any of the elements in domain 4 can say, 1 through 4, domains 1 through 4, can say and look around and say, I've witnessed this, I've seen this, here's my evidence, and can score you in an informal way toward, can provide data, provide evidence on the overall portfolio of what they're seeing of your overall educator effectiveness. Anyone can do these, including yourselves. All teachers can do this. You can do this of your administrators. You can do observations of your administrators during meetings. You can do each other during meetings. You can watch each other during classes. During professional learning days, you can score each other. What it really comes down to is, let's get a collection of data for what's being seen of all the staff. But these scores don't go into the deliberate practice, however. They go and become part of the overall professional practice. So that becomes a giant aggregate of data. The overall professional practice brings in the formal scores, the informal scores, and the walkthrough scores that we'll get to in just a minute. But these are not as rigorous, not as intense, and basically anyone can provide an informal observation on anybody. The third area of the observation is going to be the walkthrough. These are quick. These are when you just walk into a room, look at what's going on very quickly. You're looking for some things in general or in particular, or some things stand out. For example, if one of the things you wanted to do a quick check on in your school was to see to what extent are rigorous learning goals and scales being used effectively in our school district, we might do a couple of walkthroughs on those to see where they are. We can go in and see, where are the scales posted? Are they being used? Can I talk to a student to say, where's your scale? How do you know when you've gotten there? For example, but they're quick. You're in and out. Any evaluator, observer, or peer mentor can do it, peer on peer or peer mentor. They're also an embedded component of the end of year overall professional practice criteria. So these are, again, very quick. They're just meant to be as a overall snapshot, very quick look at what's going on these smaller, or these, not smaller, but these elements So in terms of effectiveness between what the teacher does and what the student knows it can do, that bridge, it's important for us to know, how can we be effective? And when we're being observed, we need to know the rules, need to know the routines, and also need to know what's expected of us. That's what this whole series is all about, to help all of us become more effective in what it is that we all do. For more information on the MSAD 46 teacher evaluation or PEPG system, please go to this website, tinyurl.com/MSAD46PEPG. And while you're there, give it a bookmark so you don't have to necessarily remember where it is all the time. On that webpage, you're going to have all of the resources for the PEPG system, our teacher evaluation system. You're going to have all of the resources, like I said, links and schedules and information is going to be there. And of course, you can reach out to me, Matt Drewette-Card, at any particular time.